We now move to our first technical session for the day. In this session, we will explore adolescent diets, food systems, and the urgent need for investment in nutrition. This session will be chaired by Dr. Sujit Ranjan, Chief Executive Officer, United Way Delhi. Dr. Ranjan has over 2 decades of experience in public health, nutrition, and sustainable development, steering large-scale initiatives and advocating for policy change. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ranjan. I would also like to invite our esteemed speakers. As I call your names, speakers, kindly make your way to the stage and take your seats. Today we will hear from Dr. Deepika Chaudhary, Senior Health and Nutrition Specialist, the World Bank. Dr. Supreet Kaur, Senior Policy Advisor, Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. Ms. Preetu Mishra, Nutrition Specialist, UNICEF, India. Dr. Satvinder Kaur, Associate Professor, UCSI University, Malaysia. Dr. Shweta Khandelwal, Vice President, Social and Economic Empowerment, IPE Global. Dr. Suman Chakrabarti, Associate Research Fellow, International Food Policy Research Initiative. As our panelists settle, I would like to remind everyone that, like yesterday, each speaker will have 12 minutes to share their presentations. At the 10-minute mark, we will hear a bell that will signal to speakers that they have 2 minutes remaining to close out their presentations. Thank you again, speakers, for helping us keep time to ensure we hear from everyone in equal measure. Dr. Ranjan, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, Suprabhat, Namaskar. And after listening to Dr. Srinath Reddy, this session is very meaningful because lots of the guidance, lots of roadmap he has shared. And maybe this session is very important when we are discussing about not only the current generation, also talking about the future. So I warmly welcome to all of you in this important session. And we understand that good nutrition has the power to transform, to empower the present and the future generation. And in this session, we are going to explore and discuss lots of areas like the nutrition and well-beings, the food system. We are also going to discuss about the triple burden of malnutrition, the adolescent growth and development. At the same time, the critical role of macro and the micronutrients, and the research policies, how the guidelines, how that is helping to the community as well as the young generation, the adolescents. Before going for the session, we understand this fact very well that investing in adolescent is the foundation of the nation building. And we heard from Dr. Srinath Reddy also. The adolescent is the time when rapid physical growth increases nutrients requirements, the demands, and how not only the adults, rather the adolescent, how they can understand better and they can be a kind of brand ambassador for the group. At the same time, the dietary behavior established in the adolescent, and that has the consequences for the long-term health, the period. And today we are honored to have the presence of an esteemed group of panel members consisting of policy leaders, program leaders, the passionate professionals in the field of public health nutrition, and also in the field of research, and the experts in the policies and the roadmap. So let us listen to all of them. And I am fortunate that I have worked with most of them very closely. Like Deepika ji, we have worked very closely in CARE for a long time. So it's a long association with all the panel members. And I'm feeling proud Pirutu ji is here, and Dr. Shweta Khandelwal, Sukrit ji here. So I have worked very closely with all of them. So it's good to listen to all of them. What they think, how this roadmap is important, and how this roadmap will give a direction from this platform which Sukarya has provided to all of us. And all the passionate leaders are under the banner of this 2 days international conference. We all are here. So before without taking much time, I would like to request the first speaker, Dr. Deepika Nair Chaudhary, who is the Senior Health, Nutrition and Population Specialist, the World Bank, New Delhi. And let us listen to Dr. Deepika. Dr. Deepika, please.
Thank you, Sujit. And it's a pleasure to be here with the panelists who, like you said, we worked very closely with. Thank you for the kind introduction. So at the outset, again, a very good morning to everyone. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting the World Bank to speak in this session on adolescent diets, nutrition, and food systems. I would like to acknowledge my colleagues listed here who have contributed to this presentation across our global practices of social protection, education, health, nutrition, and population. I will cover in my talk briefly why we need to invest in adolescents, while you would have heard extensively about it. Is it okay now? I feel quite towering, but nevertheless, yeah. So I'll start from this slide, if that's okay. I will cover in my talk why we need to invest in adolescents. And I was saying you would have heard extensively about the same, but I would still like to reiterate as it's the morning half of the second day. The National Nutrition and Health Programs for Adolescents, which you would have also heard about, but would like to present a snapshot, followed importantly by sharing with you the programs on adolescents which are being supported by the World Bank, and finally, what are the implications moving forward. There are 40 lakh adolescent girls in the age group of 15 to 19 years who've started the process of childbearing in India. Children of adolescent mothers have a higher mortality and malnutrition rates than children of older mothers, which is well known. And therefore, this has a significant impact on the next generation workforce of India. As per the National Family and Health Survey data, round 5, about 59% of adolescent girls and 31% of boys 10 to 19 years are anemic. Anemia leads to, among other consequences, diminished physical work capacity, poor cognitive function, and lower scholastic performance. We would like to highlight here that improving adolescent health and nutrition yields economic gains. A $1 investment in programs to improve physical, mental, and sexual health of adolescents has been estimated to yield $10 of benefits in GDP terms. There are a number of successful interventions which have improved health and nutrition outcomes of adolescents. Interventions to improve health and nutrition among adolescents particularly include financial incentives, school-based mobilization and education, school-based health education and counseling, youth-friendly service provision, and nutrition-specific interventions. We know that the Government of India recognizes the importance of this life cycle period and has instituted programs for adolescent nutrition and health. And these include the Scheme for Adolescent Girls. This scheme provides both nutrition and non-nutrition support to adolescent girls. It provides supplementary nutrition, which contains 600 kilocalories and 18 to 20 grams of protein and essential micronutrients in the form of take-home rations. The weekly iron folic acid supplementation program, which has been fairly successful. This program provides the weekly IFA tablets to in and out of school adolescent girls to prevent and treat anemia. And it also includes biannual albendazole tablets to control worm infections. A dedicated scheme supported by the National Health Mission, which promotes menstrual hygiene among adolescent girls, is called the Menstrual Hygiene Program, which has also been successful in spreading messages and awareness on the same. And finally, but importantly, the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram. This is a broader program that addresses adolescent health and wellness. So a little more detail on the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, which was launched by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, is a national level comprehensive adolescent health program. It uses a rights-based approach and a holistic one to enable adolescents to make informed and responsible decisions about their health. The program is built on 6 thematic pillars, which include nutrition, sexual and reproductive health, mental health, injuries and violence, substance misuse, and non-communicable diseases. The Scheme for Adolescent Girls, which is implemented by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, provides a strong program platform to enhance delivery of nutrition, health, education, and skilling services to adolescents, changing social norms of targeted adolescent girls, their families, and communities through social behavior change communication, and helping preparing adolescent girls for the labor market and interventions targeted to employment and economic empowerment. This, of course, as we all know, would be possible with coordination by the Ministry of Women and Child Development with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Ministry of Education and Skills. The World Bank has also prioritized to invest in adolescents, and in the next few slides, I will briefly describe the operations that we are supporting at the state level. In the state of Gujarat, we support a health systems strengthening program called Shrestha Gujarat, which is a 35 crore operation over and above the investments that are made by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It has a focus on development and adoption of guidelines and training for population-based adolescent anemia management in the state in 14 high-burden anemia districts and 2 high-burden anemia urban corporations. It has also supported the development and rollout of a state-level convergence framework. It has supported the development of a common monitoring system called TECO, using existing data sources from the 3 departments, Health, Women and Child, and Education, for name-based tracking of health, education, and welfare indicators of each adolescent. Further, this program has supported the development of guidelines and a training package using a very innovative approach called the incremental learning approach for all the program pillars for the Health, Women and Child, and Education department cadres. And additionally, based on existing gaps identified through beneficiary and service provider assessments, it has also supported the development of an adolescent social behavior change communication strategy. So there's an array of areas which have been prioritized under this large operation, spearheaded by the State Health and Family Welfare Department to focus on adolescent health and nutrition in conjunction with the key stakeholders. The second is the Meghalaya Multi-Sectoral Project for Adolescent Wellbeing, Empowerment and Resilience. It is a smaller investment of 3.5 crores to the state government. The objective is to enhance multi-sectoral service delivery and capability of the state of Meghalaya to improve adolescents' human capital outcomes, so a broader objective being in place. The beneficiaries are 400,000 in school and 100,000 out of school adolescents. The Planning, Investment, Promotion and Sustainable Development Department with the Departments of Education, Health, Sports and Youth are the key implementing agency. So this Gujarat and Meghalaya are two states where we are currently actively engaged in supporting the state departments to further and accelerate the adolescent agenda. The third operation is in Assam, which has been prepared, however, is in the process of being approved. We are seeking both external and internal approvals. It is called the Assam School Education and Adolescent Wellbeing Project, again with an investment of 26 crores. The key objective is to improve students' foundational learning and school-to-work transition of adolescents. The key components will include improving foundational learning outcomes, including improving the quality and delivery of early childhood education, which is a key aspect of this operation, strengthening school system capabilities, and improving well-being, education, and economic pathways for adolescents. The Departments of School Education and Women and Child Development are the key implementing agencies. Coming to the end of the presentation, what therefore are the implications of moving forward based on our experience of supporting national and state level engagements? The government, civil society, and the NGOs have to accord the highest priority to invest in the nutrition and health well-being of adolescents. The programs need to deliver evidence-based high-impact interventions at scale to improve outcomes. A robust monitoring system to track coverage and quality of interventions to facilitate corrective actions as we implement these programs is required. Regular budgetary allocations for programs is key, and I think we well recognize that critical aspect. And finally, integrating adolescent interventions in different program platforms to improve adolescent outcomes to maximize the impact of well-being is also important. I'd like to thank you once again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Deepika ji, and very informative presentation. We got an opportunity to learn so many interventions which are going on in different parts of the country to understand the mechanism to understand adolescent need better and to contribute better. And you rightly talked about the economic gain, how for the policy advocacy, how one can understand what kind of economic gain is there. And also I feel like the data, NFHS data, that is there since 2021, but lots of efforts have already been done. Hope things will change in coming years, and we are very confident about the kind of intervention we are having. So now I'm going to the second speaker, Dr. Supreet Kaur, who is head policy program and external relations in GAIN, Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, New Delhi. And I would like, and she's going to talk about the food system transformation for better nutrition in the country. Thank you very much, Dr. Supreet.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sujit. And very good morning, everyone. At the onset, I would really like to extend my gratitude to Sukarya for having GAIN here as for this important platform. And from the whole team of GAIN, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers for bringing this very pertinent issue of adolescents and their health and nutrition upfront and bring it to this platform. My presentation today will be around food system transformation and how we can link it to better nutrition. I'm very sure that you guys must be thinking that why adolescent nutrition and food systems, they are like, sounding two words or two words, two planets apart, why we are discussing this. So it is very important and, very pertinent and timely discussion where we can think that adolescents, their health and nutrition are an integral part of food systems approach, which is really needed at this time, where we are seeing that we cannot no more work in silos. It has to be a wholesome approach. It has to be a grand approach where each component of the food system should work together and churn the wheels in a way that it leads to overall better nutritional outcomes, not only for our country, but globally also. So before I come to the issue of food systems, we need to understand that the nutritional challenges are there everywhere. 1 in 3 people worldwide are malnourished. There are 1 in 5 deaths which are linked to poor diets. If we talk about micronutrient deficiencies, 1 in 2 preschool children and 2 in 3 women in reproductive age groups are affected by at least 1 micronutrient deficiency. If you talk about women, I think adolescents are also part of this group, where in India we can see 9 in 10 women in India are affected with at least one form of micronutrient deficiency. And iron deficiency is common in 2 in 5 women in India. SDG indicators, if you talk about 56 important indicators are directly or are there who talk about or who are relevant to the nutrition and its outcomes. According to World Health Assembly 2012, when they endorsed a plan, the 6 important global nutrition targets are to be met by 2025. And I think for globally, we have missed the bus and not been able to come to the few of the indicators which we need to close it by this year end. So we can say that nutrition is not just the marker of the progress, but it is actually the maker of the progress. What the challenges lies in, why we are saying that nutrition is a very difficult issue to crack, because 2.8 billion people across the globe cannot afford what we call the healthy diets. 2 billion people are affected by micronutrient deficiencies, and we can see the prevalence of overweight and obesity, which is a new sort of big elephant in the room, is that the increasing number of overweight and obesity, not only globally but also in India, 1/4 of our population for females and nearly for males are affected by overweight or obesity, and the similar figures we can see globally also. So why it is important to talk about food system is because 1 in 5 lives could be saved if we invest in improving the diets. So that is why food system must be urgently, dealt to make the work for people and for the planet. Now, I would like to take your attention to, I want to flash 4 aspects in front of you and pose a problem, so that overall picture of where the food systems are important, and they are they have to be the epicenter of the discussion, is because if you see India, we are somewhere doing average levels as far as nutritional outcomes are concerned, we are on a trajectory of improvement, although the improvement is slow. But still, we can see that yes, we are at the correct path, and later or sooner we'll reach the destination. This can be seen through our anemia numbers, which have improved a bit, or the stunting or wasting numbers, which might be stagnant, or there is slight improvement. So somewhere, we are mediocre as far as nutritional outcomes are concerned. This is the first aspect. The second aspect is the coverage of health and nutrition programs. We have seen the improvement in all the coverage programs related to health or nutrition. Had it been the institutional birth rates, the vitamin A supplementations, or you talk about the ANC coverage, ICDS coverage, all the programs which are related to health and nutrition have shown the improvements from NFHS 4 to 5. So there we are doing very good. The third aspect is India's agricultural productivity. We've been seeing that India is serving as the food basket for the whole world. The 2024-25 numbers are showing 6.5% increase in the food grain productions, and which is remarkable when we see the whole world is under stress. But India's agricultural productivity is showing the positive sense. So there also we are doing good. Now, the fourth aspect about the diet diversity. We are not showing good numbers here. The women are not reaching the minimum diversity. They are very low. NFHS 5 data is showing that children are receiving very less minimum acceptable diet, nearly 11%. So if we see the four aspect, we are doing very good in agricultural productivity. We are very good health and nutrition coverage. Mixed performance of nutritional outcomes. So what is missing? So the missing is the middle food systems, where we are not collectively thinking. So before I go to what actually is food systems, the challenges is the diets are unaffordable, they are less desirable, not at all accessible, they are inadequate, and actually the need is to revamp the complete food system and think through a fresh and new perspective. So this is the diagram. I mean, it looks a little complex, but broadly it has four important buckets which talk about how we are, strengthen the food supplies, the food environments, individual factors, and consumer behavior. All these four, or at the end, it's going to influence our diets, along with the external drivers, needs to move in a certain synchronized way so that we can achieve what is meant for us. Under food supply, the food production system and input needs to be strengthened, the storage and distribution, processing and packaging, and of course, then the retail and marketing. Under environment, it's the food availability, the products, the food messages around it, the advertisements we are being listening when we open our phones, when we open our televisions. We are being influenced by so many food advertisements which are not even healthy for our children or for us. The individual factors are dependent upon the type of culture we are being brought up, type of society, my cognitive ability to choose the food, and so on and so forth. That ultimately leads to the consumer behavior and influence the diet of the person. Along with that, there are certain external drivers which influence the whole food systems, which are namely environment and biophysical factors, the cultural factors, infrastructure, research and development, demographic factor, political and economic factor. And we can see at present there is so much of war-like situation everywhere in the globe. There is economic distress. So all these things are like external factors which may influence the food systems. Now, before I jump, I think the biggest concern here is the affordability. Our food systems at present are not designed enough to produce or to provide the healthy diets which are affordable to all. As for the SOFI report, the diet of per person per day is around 280 Indian rupees, and if we count for it, it comes at nearly 40 to 50% of Indian households cannot afford this type of diets. So what we can do now? We need to revamp our whole food system in a way that it should give a balanced type of approach. One needs to work on the food loss, food waste aspect. If we see the food supply chain, a third of our food is being lost at farm. So there is a need to bring urgent attention to the policymakers, to the SMEs to come together and work towards reduction of the food losses. One needs to, in the food environment, it is very pertinent to have clear food labels. I know the government is working hard on the front of pack labeling, I don't know, for so many years, but we still have not heard anything what makes the consumers to have the better choice around it. Then of course individual factors, we are being inspired so much by the food advertisements. We can have the unhealthy food advertisement every now and then, but I am not sure whether have you ever seen an advertisement which promotes the eating an apple or a spinach, or for that matter a guava a day will be helpful to you. No such advertisements are there to make the healthy food aspirational. At the end, I would like to recommend that for the food system, it has to be the consumer and food environment focused food system approach. Markets for better diet should be there. That means that one should have demand for it. End-to-end approaches for key nutrient-rich diet should be there, and leveraging other systems for equitable diet and nutrition impact should be designed. And the governments and the policymakers should come up with the leadership to build the capacity and the knowledge for the people who are directly or indirectly linked to food systems approaches. I would like to conclude by saying that India has made impressive progress in some dimensions of nutrition. Stunting is reducing, nutritional program coverage is improving through health systems or ICDs. Agricultural production also remains very high, but diet diversity is low. Food systems have the potential to do much more for nutrition and bring a comprehensive approach rather than working on the silos to reach to the nutritional outcomes. It's high time that we should work cohesively and togetherly to bring food systems approach and transformation towards the positive side. There is no silver bullet within food systems, but a range of action that needs to happen. Because so many actions are needed, they have to be sequenced and coordinated. It has to be sing in a way, an orchestra is working, but it's not that everyone is singing their own tunes. And GAIN is proud to be working to support Government of India in its efforts to develop and implement a strong pathway for food system transformation. Thank you so much. And this is another clutter diagram, which I don't think I have time to discuss, which talks about that if we fix all the parts of food systems, then how it can work very efficiently to curb the nutritional outcomes. With this, I would like to thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shripreet, for this well-structured presentation, very informative. And you rightly mentioned missing points also, especially like how the transition from the uniform food system to the more structured food system. So we'll discuss in detail also whenever we get time. And thank you very much. So now I would like to request Dr. Preetu Mishra, who is the nutrition specialist in UNICEF country office. Dr. Preetu.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts on triple burden of malnutrition. I won't go into the details. We know as a globe we are facing this triple burden of malnutrition. That means we are struggling with underweight, stunting, overweight, micronutrient deficiencies all together, and many times all the forms in a household, in the same household, or sometimes in the same individuals as well. And I think thank you for this topic, and it's very timely because the global report that clearly showed that unfortunately the prevalence of obesity has surpassed underweight globally. We have 9.2% of children 5 to 19 years of age who are underweight, but we have 9.5% of children 5 to 19 years of age who are now overweight. So the cause and worries are increasing. Very briefly, let me share a story of Rashmi, whom I met few months back in one of the towns of India. And I'm sure you will all relate to that we have met many Rashmis across our lifestyle. She's a young girl of 12 years. She loves to eat. She gets some pocket money, so she loves to buy some chips, sugary drinks. But her diet at the household is slightly frugal. Most of the days her diet is rice, sometimes dal, which is sometimes watery. She doesn't like vegetables, and many of the times fruits are missing from her plate. Now today, after eating so much of junk food, she also has access to mobile, because many times our education access has become a lot of time digital. So mobile access, TV access, and it's not limited to rural or urban. But all this has led to what? She feels often very tired, exhausted. She finds difficulty in concentrating in class. That's her today's situation. But what tomorrow unfortunately is waiting is that she is at a risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease because of higher weight, unhealthy diet. And that's what I'll be slightly talking about, is how this triple burden is really facing. It was very timely that my presentation is after this topic of food systems, thanks to Supreet, because I'll be talking about how somewhere what she also highlighted, that how the food systems has been failing for us, for our kids, not only in India, but across the globe. Very briefly, our food systems are defined by both external and personal choices. On the left-hand side, we have the external choices where policymakers, governments have a very strong role to play, whether it is regulations, marketing, prices, availability. We keep on talking about reducing unhealthy food, but who's talking about making the healthy food affordable? But also a lot of personal choices, what we choose in our daily diet, what goes into my daily plate is a personal choice, of course, defined by the external environment. I won't talk into the details or datas or numbers, but as you see, at least 2 in 3 children are not fed even the minimum diet which is required. Approximately 35 million girls and boys, and this data I am just sharing of under 5 years, are overweight. And you can see, while we have done globally good in stunting and wasting and reducing some figures, but overweight seems to be increasing. This is from a report released in July 2025. As we see India lying in the South Asia region, it seems we are doing slightly better than other countries. We are still in green zone. But then, as the global report does indicate, and knowing the fact that the numbers are high in South Asia region, if we don't do anything as soon as possible, we'll move from green to blue and pink. That's worrisome. I just mentioned this global report. It's a nice report. I would request everybody to go, because it talks about not only the data, but also how the food systems around girls and boys are, how different actors and players have really failed in ensuring a protective food system, including industries. They do play a big role. Very briefly, as I said, obesity is rising at a very faster rate. And unfortunately, in 25 years, it has doubled up. And that's worrisome, because we are still struggling with other forms of malnutrition, that is stunting, wasting, anemia, and other micronutrient deficiencies. As part of this report, globally, UNICEF reached out to girls and boys in around 171 countries through a digital platform, of course. And what we found, that in 3 out of 4 young children, that's nearly 75%, they reported that they have seen some kind of advertisement of sugar drink, fast food, snacks in past 1 week. Also, which are the sources from which they saw? So social media was the top, and it doesn't come as a surprise. We know the excess of social media, be it any platform, among this age group. And 3 out of 5 young people also agreed that these advertisements really push them to buy. And I'm sure this one statement we all will feel personal. Even we feel impulsive to buy sometimes when we see advertisement too much in TV or social media. And if we visit the supermarket, or now the supermarket is on our mobile, just do some delivery apps and everything is available. Now coming to India, and I'm sure these data is very familiar to colleagues from India. The only point I want to share here is that stunting has reduced, wasting has declined, but overweight in India has increased. It may look very less compared to the 5% target that we committed for World Health Assembly, but it seems to be increasing across age group, and for some of the age groups, it is very high, especially for adult. As I said, India unfortunately seems to miss the target of the World Health Assembly goal that we committed of no rise in childhood overweight. Thankfully, this target was shifted from 2025 to 2030. We still have around 4.5 years. We can still make some dent. More worrisome is that there is an estimate using the Comprehensive National Nutrition Survey data of Ministry, which says that approximately by 2030, India will contribute, or rather Indian children of 5 to 9 years will contribute to 11% of the global burden. And what this global burden will do, it will lead India to lose around $35 billion every year. That's massive, and I don't think that any country can afford it. Of course, prevention of overweight, obesity, improving healthy diet, healthy food environment is the best chance to reverse this epidemic. If we go into the depth of data from India, in past 2 NFHs, that is from 2015 and 2021, there were only two states, Goa and Tamil Nadu, that showed some improvement, that means some reduction in overweight and obesity among children. Rest all states have increased their overweight and obesity among this age group. So that clearly shows that overweight obesity is not an urban problem, it's not an elite problem, it's everywhere. Every district is impacted. I'll credit this slide to IFRI. They have also done a district-wise analysis, and you can go through their website to check this. And of course, obesity rarely comes alone. Nobody is just obese. There are individuals who are obese plus anemic, who are underweight plus anemic, who are underweight plus diabetic, and that's most worrisome. And what I'm saying is all for children's age group. What we attempted to do, that we used the raw data of the Comprehensive National Nutrition Survey, and we tried to do some raw analysis. And what we found, that I'll just give an example of children 10 to 19 years, around 4.8% were overweight or obese. And what we found, that out of these 4.8 children who were overweight or obese, around 50%, that is 1 out of every 2, suffer from 2 or more micronutrient deficiency, be it iron plus vitamin D, or vitamin B plus vitamin D, or vitamin D plus iron. The combinations are different, but 50% of them had at least 2 micronutrient deficiency while being overweight. 25% were anemic, and around 25% also had poor lipid profile. This survey for the first time also indicated the prevalence of prediabetes, high cholesterol, diabetes, and other non-communicable diseases among this age group of 5 to 19 years also. I would request you to go, but some data is mentioning here. 12% children 5 to 19 years pre-diabetic. It's cause of worry. I won't go into the detail because I think somewhere Supreet has already touched this slide, but just want to recreate that cheap ultra-processed food, unethical business practices is one of the big worrisome. I've just borrowed this slide from the report called Feeding Profit. The report also highlighted that there is no single country in this globe who has all adequate legal measures and policies to protect our children from all unhealthy food. There's not a single country. Every country has some inadequacy in terms of legal framework or policies. And of course, India is also part of that. So that the question is, are we eating diet? I won't go into the detail of the data, but we have data on what's missing on the plates of the children. And I think when we talk of diet, let's not also forget screen time. Let's also not forget that these kids are snatched of the time for playing outside, which is all important for a healthy diet and healthy lifestyle. And all this data, when it was published in 2019 as part of Comprehensive National Nutrition Survey, really got ministries and Government of India and Niti Aayog very worried. That we have been talking about stunting, wasting, anemia, but where are we talking about overweight, obesity, and rather comprehensively as a triple burden? And that was a time when in 2021 Niti Aayog called for a very high level meeting. It was joined by around 8 ministries, including non-traditional ministries like information broadcasting, finance, Ministry of Youth Affairs, and multiple UN agencies including WHO, WFP, World Bank, and others. And out of the culmination of this one-day meeting and series of discussions, we led to 5 thematic briefs that India decided that we need to start building our knowledge and helping that knowledge to build the policy change. And what are these 5 topics? One is taxation of the foods which are high in fat, salt, sugar. Second is front of pack nutrition labeling. Third is that we need to have a youth-led, skill-based nutrition literacy. We need to regulate private and public media advertisement, which is going haywire. And we also need some double duty actions in the public funded program. The public funded program are always designed to address underweight and not the overweight. So these were the 5 policy briefs. In the next panel session, we have a session from Dr. Monica Arora, who will be taking us to each of the learnings of these policy briefs. I'm happy to share that the learnings were released by Dr. Vinod Paul and DG ICMR Dr. Rajiv Vahed this year, 28th May. You can just do a Google of Let's Fix Our Food. It's a youth-led event where even youth are part of the whole process. We have a lot of young girls and boys who guide us on what they think about the food advertisement and how we can help them out to improve in terms of policies as well. I won't have much time, so I won't go into the depth. But as part of the 5 policy briefs that I mentioned, we also tried to map all the 12 important key indicators which are important to make healthy diet and nutrition environment for every children. This was done for all the regional country in the South Asia, for all 8 countries. I've just shared a snapshot of India. And you can see that we do have a lot of dark greens, which shows that there are no bottlenecks. But we also see that there are a lot of grays, which means we don't have a program. For example, we don't have clarity on how much physical activity to be recommended, screen time, also unhealthy food, beverages, taxes, and rather you must have heard the news that in GST 2.0, a lot of unhealthy food unfortunately has become cheaper. But front of pack labeling, of course, government is very committed to. And there would be a lot of need for a lot of school-based programs, which Deepika already shared, that how school-based programming is helping to ensure that interventions are reaching to schools and kids in terms of getting their weight done, getting them information on counseling and other things. These are just a screenshot of the policy briefs, but I know the speaker in the next session would be talking about. And I would just end my session with saying that I believe nutrition is the best insurance and we need to invest in nutrition. It's not about overweight, obesity. A healthy diet will ensure combating all types of malnutrition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Preetu. And the most important thing, you have raised lots of questions and also food for thought for all the public health nutritionists, people, those who are sitting here in this hall. And the most important thing is there is a need to have more focused intervention to prevent overnutrition, overweight, obesity. And you rightly mentioned about how to promote the lifestyle as well as the dietary practices. So that's the important thing and takeaway. We'll listen more in the next from the next speaker. So now I would like to invite Dr. Satvinder Kaur, and she is here all the way from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. She is the associate professor in and faculty of Applied Sciences, UCSI University, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Firstly, I would like to thank Sukarya for inviting me to speak at this important platform. So today I'm going to be sharing on beyond quantity, the role of protein quality in adolescent growth and well-being. So I'm from the Faculty of Applied Sciences. My background is I'm a nutritionist and I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So a little bit of perspective as requested by Sukarya to share what's happening in Malaysia. Well, I wouldn't say we are far apart from any different issues that we are facing in Malaysia in terms of nutrition. So today I'll talk a little bit on adolescent growth, protein quality, what are the importance in our adolescent. Malaysia, what's the status in Malaysia like, and one success story in Malaysia. So adolescent, I believe from what we have heard since yesterday and today from some of our speakers, it is definitely a point of time where it's a critical window for growth, and not just for growth, but for their brain development as well. So what's the key things that are happening in our adolescents during this period of time is they attain puberty, whereby they go through hormonal changes, both physiologically, psychologically. So there's a lot of things that's going on in them. And this is also a period where they develop skeleton growth. They grow in terms of their bone mineral density, attaining height. And I would say this is the peak growth stage, to attain height. And then cognitive, what's happening in terms of their mind and how can they support their mood regulation, focus, memory, as well as important academic performance. Now, what we often see about diet is that we want to advocate healthy diet. So macronutrients are often not a problem. Instead, what is the problem is the quality of macronutrients that we consume. So we see that quantity is not sometimes the problem, but it's more of the quality. So the quality is part that we need to emphasize more in making diversified choices and contains more nutrients in the diet. So now Malaysia, if some of you have been to Malaysia, we are known as the heaven for food. We have a lot of food choices coming from diversified cultural. We have three main ethnic in Malaysia, namely Malay, Indian and Chinese. So what you see on the screen is our popular dish, nasi lemak. And we have chicken rice, roti canai, Indian cuisine and curry mee. So these foods you can see are loaded with calories, macronutrients, carbohydrate and protein as well as fats. Now, we are no better, I would say, from India. We are having the issue of obesity, and I think the government of Malaysia is going on full force to tackle this problem in our population. So 1 in 3 of our adolescents is overweight and obese, and this is from the recent national survey that we were conducted. And you can see from the data that we get that our adolescents are not eating very healthily too. 1 in 3 of them consume carbonated drinks every day. 4 in 5 do not consume enough fruits and vegetables. In terms of physical activity, they are not moving much as well. So 2 in 3 of them are sedentary. And of course, fast food intake is quite rampant in our diet, and 1 in 10 eats fast food at least 3 days in a week. So 1 in 3 of our adolescents are overweight and obese. Now, based on our recommended nutrient intake in Malaysia, we do not have a problem attaining protein intake. We achieve them very easily and maybe sometimes a lot more. But what are the sources of our protein? They come from fried chicken, they come from processed meat, they come from sweetened soya drinks, and refined carbohydrate generally dominates adolescents' meals. So protein quality, what it really means is that we want enough essential amino acids and good digestibility for our adolescent. We want them to come from high quality sources such as eggs, milk, fish, chicken, and as well as plant-based protein. As we are moving towards a more sustainable planet, we want to encourage sustainable eating, and a lot of efforts are being made globally to encourage plant proteins as well, such as soya, dal, tempeh. Tempeh is a type of fermented soya, as you can see in the photo. I don't have a point, but it's below the rice. And this is actually very good for the gut microbiome as well. But they can't be eaten alone. They must be eaten together with enough carbohydrate to ensure the absorption of protein. So why is protein so important in terms of quality for our adolescents? It's very important to support their growth, to boost their cognition, to allow for mature development during puberty stage, for their immunity, and as well as sports recovery. As we have seen from even some presentations yesterday, how sports are very important for the development of our adolescent. And encouraging being involved in sports activity means we need to supply them with adequate and quality proteins. So from Malaysia, as mentioned, we don't have a problem with quantity. We have enough food. I think in Malaysia, we have surplus of food. We hardly go hungry in Malaysia because we have a lot of 24-hour eateries as well. But what is missing in our diet is quality and variety. We highly lack that in our diet. And we do see, in terms of trend, a lot of adolescents as well as children, 20 to 30% actually do miss breakfast, and they eat more dinner, and their protein consumptions are pretty heavy during dinner time. And in terms of urban youth, we have issues whereby we have urban poor communities, and fast food is dominating this population as well. So there's also very low intake of plant-based protein, could be due to awareness, education, and we don't have a problem with animal-based protein generally. So these are some of sharing with you from Malaysia. What are the plant-based protein that are quite readily available and famous, like tempeh, which is from soya, tofus, we have many legumes, and peanuts, which dominates a lot of our traditional foods. Soya drink is also easily available in Malaysia, and we do have a particular food called stinky beans, and known as petai in Malay. But stinky beans just means it's stinky. That's why the name is stinky beans. So it's it's about adapting to the taste. So if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. So we do have several guidelines from Malaysia. What should students be eating? So this is the Malaysian dietary guideline that recommends plate for not just for children, teenagers. I would say the adults have the same guideline, but basically we emphasize half of the plate should be filled with fruits and vegetables. And we do have another plate that is curated specifically for vegetarians, whereby we have a Malaysian dietary guideline on vegetarians, which was just released, I believe, last year. And we also teach and educate Malaysians on how to use this Malaysian healthy plate on a daily basis. So it's known as the quarter, half plate. Now, I would like to share some efforts from the Malaysians front on improving adolescent nutrition. So we do have a Malaysian dietary guideline for children and adolescents. And in this guideline, we have 14 key messages that addresses pertinent and very important issues. We also have a chapter on how to eat away from home, teaching adolescents. And what is important in this guideline, it is meant for parents and healthcare professionals. So we have given tips on how to achieve the recommendations in this guideline. And recently, our Ministry of Education have banned 12 types of food and drinks that are to be banned to be sold in school canteens. So these are the 12 foods and drinks taken off school canteen menu. And as you can see, they are mainly ultra-processed foods that are high in sugar or deep fried. So they are very low in nutrient content. Now, I would like to share one best practice from Malaysia. So as you know, Malaysia, we cover both East and West Malaysia. So this is a program that is conducted in Sarawak, West Malaysia, the one with the flag. So it's one of the biggest states in Malaysia. And this was done in a small district called Miri, Sarawak. So they have come up with this cafe called Cafe Rimba. Rimba means jungle in Malay. So this cafe has the feel of a jungle. So it's very soothing, it's very nature-based. And this canteen, school canteen too, have won a gold award for providing healthy meals for their adolescents. So what is in the program of this school is they have regular health talks and exhibition from the Ministry of Health or any external agency. They appoint student ambassadors to promote health-related information to their school community. They also appoint prefects in school to monitor the school canteen environment to ensure the canteens are in a conducive environment. And they also have a school canteen day that emphasizes healthy food sales. These are led by the PTA, the Parents and Teachers Association. There's also a high emphasis on healthy cooking methods whereby they only encourage steaming and boiling and less of deep frying. There's no processed food that is allowed to be sold in this canteen. They also offer special menu that serve more fruits and vegetables for students who are overweight, and the foods are all labeled with calorie tags, and this increases the students' awareness on healthy eating and food choices. I would also like to share one initiative this report is just published last month. It's an effort from Ministry of Health and UNICEF Malaysia, whereby they look into the impact and effectiveness of SSB taxation in Malaysia. So only related to adolescent, we can see that due to the SSB tax, there is a decrease in SSB consumption in the adolescent, and more health awareness have been imparted in both parents and their adolescents. So I would also like to share an achievement by the Ministry of Health Malaysia, whereby we recently won an award for our efforts in sugar taxes, as well as digital tools and nationwide school meal programs, demonstrating the efforts of MOH in tackling obesity, although it's not a problem, nowhere near solving it yet. That's all for me. Thank you for listening, and I invite you to Kuala Lumpur in 2027 for this important congress for our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaur, and for this wonderful presentation and lots of new ideas how to address malnutrition and the overnutrition also. And lots of opportunities are here, in our public health nutrition to learn, understand, and also how to promote the context-specific nutrition food. So lots of opportunities are there, and this was a good learning experience for most of us. Thank you very much. So now I would like to request Dr. Shweta Khandelwal, the Vice President, IP Global, for the presentation.
So nutrition has already elevated me, so which is fine. First of all, thank you to everybody, especially Meera ma'am, for having us here, talking about adolescents, talking about people who we may have crossed that age, but our heart will always stay in that, young, sweet and 16. So we would want to make sure that the population who's here, at least a fraction of population which is here today, understands how this rainbow is trying to bring different colors to you and give the knowledge which is most optimum for adolescents. I would be talking mostly about preconception nutrition, and I will make a case of why I've done this here in this conference on adolescents. Next. Oh, I only have to do. I also want to take this opportunity to for those of you who are in India, this is also a Rashtriya Poshan Ma, a National Nutrition Month, right? So it started off from 17th of last month, and it goes on to 16th October this. So we are in an opportune time today to be talking about nutrition for adolescents. A lot of births are happening globally, right? 4 births per second. So the 12 minutes that you give me, number of births would have already happened. And 1 birth in every 4 seconds is happening in India. Just for your reference, our median age of marriage in 2005 NFHS was 17.2, okay? Median age of marriage, and it's now in the latest survey of NFHS, it's 19.2. So we are still teenagers which are bearing this, and therefore my case for talking about preconception nutrition is largely from a reproductive angle, but also overall health and well-being. And because of these number of births, 11% of them is happening in adolescent girls. Now, how do we define preconception? There are lots of papers which will give you all this. I've just put it on a slide here to show you how these 8 or 9 parameters, right from clinical examinations, lab investigations, treatments, anemia specifically featuring there, IFA, family planning, as well as behavior change communication, right? All of these, and I will show you what kind of packages exist in by different works which has been done across the globe to show you how this is coming out. Our own Indian Newborn Action Plan, the INAP 2014, actually believes in that continuum, that life course approach, and it just goes on to show how they are trying to involve preconception nutrition from a family and community lens, from an outreach subcenter lens, from a health facility lens. And they actually categorize each of these services, these places, to deliver services at this critical age of preconception. So INAP gives it very comprehensively, and that was 2014. It still exists. However, a recent initiative, which 2025 President-elect of FOXI has also launched, which is called Sampurna Initiative, right? It's also called Swasth Jan Abhiyan. In that also, the main focus is on making sure that you enter the pregnancy healthy, again on preconception nutrition. So it overlaps with a lot of adolescents, but we are also talking about second pregnancies, for example, or other pregnancies later on. There is also our IAP, which has published a paper in 2024 very recently on pre-pregnancy guidelines, again taking 10 commandments. The first starting point could not be more anything else but nutrition. So diet, weight, exercise, genetic screening, medical conditions, psychosocial aspects, including mental health, smoking or substance abuse, and dental health, environment, as well as for sexually transmissible infections. So all these 10 gamuts, as you see, will span and tell you that a holistic approach for adolescent as well as preconception nutrition is extremely critical. And because I'm a nutritionist, my favorite part is to tell you that on that diet issue, they have listed out each and every element which is important during this time period. This is also a table, again, for those of you who will get access to slides, it's easy for you to see them, that across UNICEF, WHO, UNF, FAO, what are the kind of common parameters all these UN agencies and beyond are talking about. The WHO package, for example, like I said, also talks about school health and community. They talk about different health facilities and making sure that this package is strengthened from every level to give the adolescents a good, and as well as people who are having second pregnancies and others for the preconception time. There are also international models that we learned from. This is a 2014 CDC model, which also actually hovers around those 8 aspects mostly, individual responsibility across lifespan being the first one. I like this chart. I think it may be at the back a little difficult to see, but it's important for you to get this reference, perhaps for those of you who are interested in working in preconception. It was published in Lancet 2023. It really tells you very nicely that for the preconception intervention, because my topic said policy, research, and action, all 3 in 12 minutes. So I'm trying to give you a very quick screenshot of what the policy landscape and the research communities are thinking about this. They are saying that you invest energies in screening, in making sure that awareness, the SBCC campaigns that we were talking about, the education component, as well as the intervention are all synced. Okay, and they also give you multiple examples in this framework from different countries, which has worked, right? The UNICEF, I know we have Preetu already here, but I'm only happy that she will endorse this. The UNICEF, which has just come out in 2025, the whole very nicely built, I think Vani was one of the initial people who pushed for this, and the whole ROSA office is actually convened a South Asia conference around this, which gave a preconception agenda for the country. 5x5 framework, where they talk about these 5 aspects specifically: health and nutrition screening, access to micronutrients, and my other nutrition colleagues have already made the point of why micronutrients are so important, dietary and lifestyle counseling, infections prevention, as well as special care. These are just some charts, again, to make sure that you have these references. I've pasted them here. These are very nicely evidence-based algorithms, making sure that people are understanding that the work has been done in preconception nutrition. A lot of work is already there, right? While I was at Jopaigo before joining IPE, we also worked on a framework which was called SUKHI, and it was just an acronym because I love acronyms, and you will see that in my next closing slide as well. Simple SBCC, that is the first S, the U, trying to make sure that we are talking of similar protocols and trying to simplify that for common public. So we have several of these protocols like I showed you, but how do we bring them to common elements and make sure that people know what they are talking about? The knowledge center centers in HWC was a specific ask because this package was developed for Karnataka perhaps. And this knowledge center was, in the Ayushman Arogya Mandirs, the wellness centers, we were trying to make sure that not only the medicine supplies and everything else is there, but also a place for dialogues for the adolescents to come and have a conversation around certain things. The hand-holding and capacity building, nothing can happen without people to do this. So you and I are sitting in this room, but maybe we are not reaching the adolescents in the communities. And who's actually going to gear them to make sure that this happens is also a very important component of this package. And last but not the least, obviously AI, the integrated solutions using digital health. There are several examples now that they are more engaging and the youth really listens to social media and it makes their choices accordingly. So why not use that as well? There, like I said, research also was a part of my talk. I'm not going to bore you, but there are several good trials. I want to mention two. GIA, which is the Jharkhand Initiative for Adolescent Health. It's a good learning lesson for all of us to how actually they made sure that the adolescents benefit out of this. The WINGS trial, a really, really remarkable trial again, which first time ever brought 4 different type of interventions. We always struggle within nutrition to give one nutrient, and that's about it. They brought 4 different interventions, not only nutrition, health, mental health, but WASH, all of that, and ECD. Early childhood development, everything together. So of course, WINGS trial is now trying to be scaled up at an implementation point. There are several other trials also, Women First, Pre-Concept, PRIA, to show you that people are in the research community also giving you innovation packages. And rather than reinventing the wheel, as you may have seen through all my slides, enough exists which we can pick up and use. There are also international studies, by the way, and I've just summarized. So that brings me to my last slide, or like my closing slide. And I like acronyms, like I said. I find adolescents what was most suitable for policy, research, and action. So the PR word, as well as these proactive generation, like Dr. Reddy was articulating in the morning. These people, this bunch is not like a future capital, like Bonita also said. We are right now the very residents, and they're citizens right now as well. So how making sure that proactive community is engaged and is benefiting? The first is perhaps in terms of my recommendations from gleaning the literature and working a little bit on this, is protecting maternal and adolescent nutrition. Of course, I cannot think of good adolescent health without in nutrition being, safeguarded. The second is reinforcing micronutrient intake. As you saw, a number of packages talk about micronutrient deficiencies. I think anemia, any other deficiency, vitamin D these days is happening a lot, and we need to talk about that. The third is offering IFA, of course, as a supplementation policy, but also making sure that diverse diets are also a part of the package. Deworming, for sure. Then applying policy levers, which are, Preetu mentioned LFOF as an example, where several ministries were brought together by NITI and others, but marketing, labeling incentives, FSSAI, so many players in play. Yeah, and we must ensure that the policy levers are applied. So therefore, the cultivation of physical activity. I think we've not talked about physical activity a lot in this conference, but it's a very, very important piece for making sure their mental health, their overall health, as well as nutrition gets better absorbed, and obesity being such an important thing. Teaching dietary diversity, I already dwelt on. Inhibiting excessive sugar and salt. This in the light of overweight becoming more for the first time ever than underweight children. This is very, very crucial. Valuing parental involvement, and I again echo Dr. Reddy's words where he said it will be a civilization failure. So if as parents, as caregivers, as people who care about public health and adolescents, I think it's important to engage with them, understand, maybe let them lead, but engage with them. Ensuring universal access, don't find them as secluded, slip in the, cup in the lip and whatever adages I can use here. And last but not the least, strengthening protection and rights. These are their rights. Health and nutrition is their right per se. So overall, I just want to thank again for this opportunity and say that for adolescents, my own 2 learning lessons in terms of research and which has worked in policy are PLA, the participatory learning approach, which we've used in adults and can successfully be translated into this age group as well. And also co-development, make them partners, make them stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shweta, and very passionately you talked about the research how the research is very important in public health nutrition, though it's very limited and even the data is also very limited. But we understand the importance of research, especially in the countries like India, where there is a kind of context is very, very different in our geography. So it's important to learn what can work well, what is working well, and what can be further strengthened. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now I would like to request the last speaker, Dr. Shuman Chakravarti from IFPRI Delhi.
Thank you, everyone. So being the last speaker on the panel, it's always a challenge to say something new when everyone's covered so many topics, but I'll try my best. So again, to reiterate what many of the researchers here have already told you, India has a major problem with nutrition among adolescents. Here I'm just illustrating these points with, say, one of the indicators that we track, which is short stature, which is defined as adults or adolescents that have a height which is less than about 145 centimeters, and in HAS it turns out to be about less than 2 standard deviations. And what we see there is that it's increasing over time in the National Family Health Survey's data. Why is this alarming? Is because we've seen the complete opposite trend of growth in children under 5, which means stunting has been going down and their heights have been increasing. So it's quite a puzzle as why adolescent heights aren't translating in the same direction. The other thing is, of course, this has been said many times, that thinness has been going down, and that's consistently observed amongst boys and girls. And obesity has been going up, and that's also consistently observed as a trend over time amongst boys and girls. So the puzzle here is what's going on with heights. So in order to unpack this a bit, if we look at the data from the CNNS surveys, we draw graphs on the height for age z-scores of boys and girls. We see so if you look at the first part of it on the left, which is 0 to 5 years, those curves have been drawn for children under 5s in like maybe 1,000 papers already. And we know that the maximum amount of growth faltering happens in that age group, and that's known. What happens thereafter is more of a puzzle because the DHS doesn't cover the age group between 5 and 15 years. The CNNS is one of those surveys that gave us insights on what happens there. So as you can see, what's happening is that there's a little bit of a catch-up per international standards. And then again, right at adolescence, we see all of that catch-up completely eliminated. And the z-score curve hits the very lowest point that it was at 2 years again. And this is, again, based on a repeated cross-section. So you can't take this as a longitudinal evidence. This is different children at different age groups, but it's telling us something about what we might expect if we did observe the same child through the course from 0 to 19. And it's alarming if this is what's happening to them for like the consistent growth that we've seen in the economy, improvements in healthcare, improvements in sanitation, yet we're unable to sort of track this curve upwards. On the other side, if you look at BMI, which is, of course, the ratio of weight and height, that's in the direction which just goes up. That means weight gain is occurring, and it occurs steadily after age 6 upwards. So these two patterns, if you keep in mind, you can kind of expect what you'll see in terms of adult obesity by the time a child will reach 19 years. That is their fully attained height, and then their BMI will continue to increase. If you want to square this evidence with what we see in the National Family Health Survey, I've overlaid the growth curves from the NFHS 5, which is the purple line which breaks at age 5 and then starts again at age 15 on the CNNS. And if you layer these on top of it, you see that yes, you are observing the same patterns, but you're not getting a nationally representative picture from the CNNS. Either the sample is much smaller or it's a different sample socioeconomically. But you do see roughly that the trends are the same. If anything, the adolescent picture is even more alarming in the NFHS data, which is more recent than the CNNS data. The CNNS was from 2016 and the NFHS is from 2020. And there you see the growth curve even worse and much lower in the adolescent population for both boys and for girls. So if anything, there's a much more alarming picture that's emerging from the NFHS data. So of course, there are lots of debates in India around what the growth standards for adolescents are. So I don't want to get into those debates, but what I will show you is simple centimeters of height, which I think everybody can fairly agree on, that by the time you reach adulthood, your height has pretty much stabilized. So you don't need a reference point at that. You can just track it in centimeters. And what you want to see is, if you look at the heights of females and males in these diagrams, you start from 1960. So this is basically just looking at the NFHS data and going by the birth year of the individual that is measured and just looking at their heights. So this is basically by the time they've already attained their full height, what are the trends in Indian national height over the decades? So if you see the male, which is on the right side, you see an upward slope. This is, again, a generational issue. You want to see an upward slope in this graph. This is an indication that a population is eating better, is much more nourished, and is much healthier. This also tracks very well with economic development in any country. So if we look at, for example, Europe, we see them from the 1920s and you compare them to today, they have gained approximately a centimeter of height every decade. And that's a picture that's very important to track just for generally observing how well a country has been doing over time. For males, we see a slope which starts at 162 in 1960 and is approximately at 163 by 1990. After that, it's kind of plateaued, which is, again, not what we would expect to see in a country that's been achieving very high rates of GDP growth during this period. So this is something that we need to keep an eye on if we want to track the general sort of generational spillover of improved nutrition. If you look at the left, that figure is even more alarming. If we see from 1960 onwards, female height increased from about 148 centimeters mean to 152 centimeters, which is quite a large gain. After that, it's been absolutely stagnant. So this is another picture on, if we're seeing improvements in child nutrition across these periods, why aren't they translating into adulthood? We should at least be seeing small gains, but we're not seeing that at all in the data on female height. So given these trends, if you know that the adult height is plateauing and you know that the weight has been increasing, what are we going to see in the future, and what can we expect in terms of weight gain? We can only expect things to get much worse on that side as well, because at least we know that BMI is the ratio of weight and height. If height stays stagnant and weight keeps increasing, you know what you'll expect. Again, I'm not going to sort of talk about just the levels of vitamin and mineral deficiencies. We know those are present. Again, I'll talk about more on the gaps here. So there are differences between males and females when it comes to vitamin D and iron, then those are quite stark in the CNNS data. So if we unpack them a little bit further, let's look at the age at which these differences start emerging. And if you look at, say, serum ferritin, which is just serum iron, you'll see that the curves between boys and girls really start to separate at about age 10. And the reasons for that may be biological, but it does give us some directions on just the increased nutritional needs of adolescent girls at that period. And this needs to be stressed that for boys, you don't see this drop-off, which you see this drop-off very drastically for girls. And the same thing, if you look at for vitamin D, you see that those curves begin to break apart at very young ages. And why that might be the case, I can only speculate, but I think medical professionals and people who really understand nutrition need to deal with the data a little bit more carefully and just understand why we are seeing these kinds of differences. So now coming to the other side of the equation, which is diets, we don't have any single survey that looks at adolescent diets. Only CNNS was the one rare occasion when we got an insight into what adolescents are actually eating. And what we found there is, it's a picture which is very similar to what you're seeing in, say, in the NFHS data and also the NSS data, is that cereal consumption is the most consumed daily. After that, it's fats and oils and sugar and jaggery. Those food groups are consumed the most frequently in the week, followed by milk and milk products, roots and tubers, some green leafy vegetables, pulses, and beyond that, there's very little consumption on other things daily. There's a little bit more weekly consumption when it comes to other vegetables, but fruit consumption is extremely low. Animal food consumption is extremely low. But if you look at the fried food consumption, it's almost as high as some of these other food groups that are nutrient dense. But right now, at least by 2015 or 16, whenever the CNNS was, on the sides of, say, sweets, sugar sweetened beverages, we were still seeing pretty low levels of consumption. that picture might have changed quite drastically by now. We don't have any recent surveys on what adolescents are eating that are nationally representative. I think this is a major data gap that we are making decisions still with about 10-year-old data. Now, if we want to look at what children are eating by age, again, here I've just plotted all the food groups, and to see whether there's an increasing slope by age. Some foods that are eaten more by adolescents compared to younger groups. No, we see that almost across the board it's completely flat, which means that if a child is eating something by age 5, that's probably the level at which they'll be consuming it later also in adolescence, the frequency per week. That means that these dietary habits are being formed quite early, and they persist through adolescence. So to target children, we need to, I think, start messaging and start really engaging with this much earlier than adolescence if we want to make a meaningful impact. Now, if we look at food group intake by wealth, we'll see there are wealth gradients here. So from going from 1 to 5 means going from poor to rich. You see that the richer households are consuming more milk, more fruits, and some more fat, some more sugar. But for most of the other food groups, the lines are quite flat, which means that some of these are not affordability issues. Some of these are just preference issues. So if we want to, say, promote a more diverse diet, we would, if it was all affordability, we would have seen positive slopes on everything and really sharp ones. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing them only in some food groups and not in others. So again, this is something that needs to be unpacked on what is really the preference of food groups and what's the constraint on income that is causing some of the dietary inadequacies that we're seeing in the population. Finally, if you break these diets into sort of patterns, they group together as unhealthy, which is the first one, an animal-based pattern, a pattern that is high on fruits and dairy and sweet, and then a pattern which is based on plant foods. But again, that's also associated with lower incomes in India. So just to see who's eating what, you see that the first 3 dietary patterns are very much linked with higher income, whereas the unhealthy diets, the richer the household, the more unhealthy food. The richer the household, the more the dairy and more the fruits. A little slower gradient on animal foods, but yes, the richer the household, the more the animal foods. And the richer the household, the lower the plant-based foods. That's what we're seeing. And if you look at this just spatially in India, you're seeing that the unhealthy food consumption is happening in, of course, concentrated in the cities, but say in Tamil Nadu and some of the northern states and the northeastern states, that's highly prevalent over there. Almost all the states on say the coastal areas are eating more of the animal foods. The lacto-sweet diets are being consumed on the western side of India, so you can see the darker portion on those states, and the plant-based diets are still prevalent in the poorer states in India, and that's what we're seeing typically in terms of diet patterning. I can skip these for now, but I think at the end of the day, I just want to say we need more research on and better data on adolescents if we really want to not make decisions in the dark. And that would be my main takeaway for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suman. Thank you very much for another thought-provoking presentation. So now the time is here for questions, open discussion, open forum. But keeping in view of time, we'll take 2 to 3 questions, and then we are having tea break. We can have a discussion during the break also. Yeah. Hello. Please introduce yourself, and you also please mention the name of the speaker with whom to whom you want to ask questions.
Dr. Parthi from Institute of Biohospitals from Delhi.
We can't hear. Can you just or change the mic?
Dr. Parthi from Institute of Biohospitals from Delhi. I'm very impressed with Malaysia, Dr. Satvinder Kaur, who presented their programs are mother-centered and family-centered. And whatever programs for the society we are talking about all along about adolescents empowerment and kids empowerment, if it can originate from mothers and parents and do not isolate these groups, because they are only going to play a major role in empowering the adolescents and kids. And I congratulate for Dr. Satvinder Gaur for a very successful program, and Malaysia could be an example for all of others. And I have seen last 2 days we have been presenting about the policies, protocols, methodologies, and most of them looks like more of a westernized than indigenized. And we need to learn from some of these small countries. We need to more indigenize our protocols, methodologies, and strategies. Thank you.
It's your observation? Okay.
And as a
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your observation. Yeah, please.
Yep. Hi, my name's Kirk from the University of Washington, and my question is for Dr. Suman Chakrabarti. I was very interested in your observation that stunting is becoming more prevalent among adolescents despite the progress that we saw earlier for the under fives. On your BMI graph, even though there was a big trend of increasing BMI, the actual median or mean BMI was low. So for a 19-year-old, I was just looking up the WHO chart, you would expect the median to be around a BMI of 22, and it looks like the BMI in your data was about 20. Similarly, at the other end, as kind of children enter adolescence. So we know being underweight, having a low BMI, is associated with a delayed onset of puberty, and obviously puberty leads to a lot of height gain. So do you think that it's true that essentially older children are on average a little bit undernourished, a little bit underweight, and that may be delaying puberty onset and leading to the kind of stunting that you're seeing? Is that a possible explanation?
So again, I'm not an expert on puberty onset, but what I can tell you from the data is that the distribution is quite varied. So what the 20 mean that you saw is of course just a mean, right? So there is a part of the population that has a much higher BMI, and then there's a part of the population that's quite deprived, and some of this is very state specific as well. I think to get a better answer to your question, which I'm unable to answer at the moment, would be to actually unpack the data longitudinally for children to see at what age based on their current growth standards are they basically getting puberty, and is that linked with it? It's hard to answer those questions with just cross-sectional data.
So I'm a pediatrician and a public health expert trained at AIMS. So what I can tell you that in my practice and also in all the data that I've seen is that the age of onset of menarche for girls is at, as of now in India, 10 to 11 and 10 to 12. So, and just 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was 12 to 13. And just 10 years ago, it was 13 to 14. So the age of onset of puberty for girls has consistently been coming down. That could have played an important role in also the height not increasing. I was just looking at the graph that for boys, it has been going up. For girls, it has just, and this puberty onset is also gone down. So that is like, these two things are converging well. So that could be explaining it.
Just to add to the same discussion, I wanted to say the same thing, that the onset of puberty has actually been reducing, like she mentioned, every decade. So that could be one reason. I also had another question to ask about the BMIs related to what the previous question was also. What was the cutoff that you used? I'm Dr. Pratna from KHPT, Karnataka. So what was the standards used? Was it the IAP chart or was it the 2007 WHO Fanta charts that was actually used? We've found a difference between the two.
Just to avoid the confusion on standards, I just calculated BMI in the standard way, which is just weight divided by height centimeter square, like meter square, just to keep it simple. But I understand there is a difference in the charts, and there are packages available to calculate both of them. I looked at both the references. The trends are pretty much the same. So what I was trying to show is that the patterns are pretty much the same if you track across whatever standard you use. I didn't want to get into the debate of standards, so I just use simple BMI.
BMI for obesity in the IAP actually kind of shows up slightly higher numbers from our experience in comparison. Of course, it's a smaller sample from our programmatic data that in our projects, but undernutrition and the lower BMIs doesn't show much of a change. But when we are looking at the obesity numbers, it appears to be showing slightly higher when we use between IAP and WHO cutoffs. So that is why we've also been struggling on which one to use. As of now, we have stuck to the 2007 WHO cutoffs. But that may be something that, our colleague also mentioned, looking at indigenous standards or Indian standards might actually help us to understand what cutoffs to be used as well.
I'm conscious of the time, but I would want to add to this. There's also a huge discussion which is happening around body composition measures now. So people are actually, reducing their interest in BMI per se, especially for these ages, because it's sometimes erroneous. So therefore, there's a lot of, in fact, I'm a part of a consortium where we are trying to pool data from several cohorts, across India. And this is what there are initial discussions around, that a body composition analysis actually yields a lot of other richer data and understanding in terms of menarche, in terms of why the stunting is happening and these conflicts. So I think that to all of us should be, keep it at the back of your mind, that body composition may be a better measure. Over.
And average age. So the average age of the Indian women and both men has actually increased. And the second point is I think you said 19.2.
The median age.
Yeah. But if we all look around, there has been a huge migration to the cities, and we don't really realize it. Most of our data is actually, because I'm coming from ICMR, and we do realize most of your studies are like any population-based study. Most of your data is actually representing only the rural and the semi-urban. We have no data on the urban, where most of the children, and what you actually, Dr. Suman, you actually saw. So the patterns and everything that we are now seeing, the obesity and everything, is we have really no data. So unless until we actually start capturing, and that has to be the secondary data analysis, that is all with the private sector. And that is where people who are looking at the private clinics and Zomato and the others like the industry data, unless until we start putting that secondary data into that and look where that data is, the policy is actually going to be, every time is going to be made on the data that you are collecting only on the rural and the semi-urban, where you have the frontline workers who are collecting the data. So I think I am going to be talking more in the next thing, but that is where probably the things have to be seen now in that perspective.
I don't disagree with you, but I was quoting NFHS data. So that but the NFHS, for example, puts it out very nicely that the median age is 19.2. So we can keep, talk about it later. Yeah.
So thank you very much to all the speakers, and it was a wonderful learning session, rich presentation, facilitation, great participation also from all of you, and lots of ideas, from all the presentation, lots of ideas, excellent suggestions, and also the renewed collaboration, how we can work together. So I would like to convey my sincere thanks and the deep sense of appreciation to all our esteemed panel members. And this was this session was the first session of the day, and also the adolescent is the window of opportunity for all of us. So lots of ideas in the country like India, lots of success stories, lots of challenges, but how we can come together and discuss. So I'm thankful to Shokaria for providing this platform where we learn, we understand, we listen to all the speakers and all the our participants also. Thank you very much, and look forward to have this discussion during the tea break and also in the lunch time also. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you to Dr. Anjan and to our panel for those insightful discussions. I'd like to request Ms. Meera Satpathy to come on stage and take a group photo with our session 4 panelists, and she will also thank them with a token.
एक्चुअली श्वेता को नीचे क्या होता है, किसी की शक्ल ठीक से नहीं आई होती है, तो आपको उठाने से ज्यादा अच्छा। अरे नहीं,
Thank you. No, please do. Thank you. I would love to discuss.
And some thank you tokens. We'd like to thank Dr. Deepika Chaudhary. Thank you to Dr. Supreet Kaur. Thank you to Ms. Preetu Mishra. I'd like to see a little bit more enthusiasm from our crowd, please. Thank you to Dr. Satvinder Kaur. Thank you to Dr. Shweta Khandelwal.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you again to Dr. Shweta Khandelwal. Thank you to Dr. Suman Chakrabarti. All right, thank you so much to our panelists and Ms. Meera Satpathy. Now let's take a short tea break and rejoin with our sessions in about 10 to 15 minutes. So please enjoy your tea break. Thank you.